Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to Be a Voice Radio. We're in the WNOV studios. I am David Bowen, Executive Director of Wisconsin Voices, and my partner in good, one of my other partners in good, Brian Sanders is out sick today. Shouts out to Brian. Wasn't feeling too good, and a lot of people are getting sick these days. So if y'all are out there, please make sure y'all are doing your best to be safe and just try to be healthy. Keep your immune system up. Drink water. Take zinc. Take vitamin D. Take vitamin C. Go on down the line. Listen to your doctor. When's the last time you've been to a doctor? Those are all important things. And I hope that you all out there are just being careful because there are a couple bugs going around. I don't know if anybody in the studio. Anybody you got sick lately? Okay, no, okay, good for you. I'm hearing a lot of people, and then just on our team and just in communication with folks, people are catching allergies. They're catching COVID. COVID is going around again. Now this version is different than the original version. People remember the story when I think I was the first elected official in Wisconsin with COVID back in 2020. So that wasn't fun. That was not fun. That was the original COVID. And that took a toll on a lot of folks. And all your regular flu symptoms times 10, I say. It's usually how I describe it. So, it is a lot going out there. We had a lot to do for our team last week. We had the Gala in the Garden event. Really big shouts out to our sponsors for that. Summit Credit Union, Ritz Holman, CPAs, and Wisdom. Shouts out to Wisdom, all the great people over there. And I hope I'm not forgetting one. I think that was all our sponsors. And it was a good event. We had a crowd of people join us at Howard Park Lodge last week. So we were just really, really, really busy pulling that off and fighting through sicknesses for some of the folks on the team to get that set up and get everything in order for that. So that was the big thing last week. Want to really thank everyone that was able to join us. And there was a lot of events happening on Thursday. So totally understand if you could not make it. All good. There was a lot going on. Saw some other events with really good people there too. So really want to make sure that we just keep the ball rolling and learn the lessons. We'll execute better and better as we continue to grow in this and keep good things happening. So this past weekend was a great one. Especially for us, we were able to highlight some very important people. And I want to give a shout out to some of our awardees that were able to grace the stage at our event. Big shout out to Brandon Triggs of Helping Kids Better Themselves. Our staffer, Nisha Martin, was able to, matter of fact, shift over one seat. Yeah, there you go. Then we'll both be in the camera view. And Nisha from our team was able to highlight Brandon's impact at helping kids better themselves. Everybody remembers Keon Jackson Malone from WNOV, and he pretty much was the founder of Helping Kids Better Themselves. So Brandon has done very impactful work, great work, uplifting young people, giving them tools to thrive. Very deep commitment to mentorship, education, empowerment. And it just so happens Brandon is kind of like a distant cousin for me because that's your real cousin? That's funny. He has Jamaican family. So shouts out to the Triggs, the Jamaican family over there. So yeah, we've known them for years and it's been kind of cool. Always be connected to them. My cousin Sandy, shouts out to Sandy and her friends. So we were able to highlight Brandon, the work he did, and his speech was phenomenal. We want to see if we can take some clips and get that out on social media so you guys can see his very heartfelt speech. We were able to highlight, and he got the Building Community Award. Let me also highlight Joanne Balch at the via CDC on the South Side. Joanne has done amazing work with that organization, and I look forward to connecting with her soon. But we were able to highlight the great work that they have done in partnership with Wisconsin Voices as well. And we were thankful for her presence there that night as well. They're definitely doing great work, neighborhood based, working with families, working with young people and longtime residents, equipping them to take part in decisions that affect their lives daily. They very much highlight leadership and foster it at the neighborhood level, encouraging active participation, helping to protect and expand democracy where it matters most in our communities. And last that we were able to highlight was the great folks, board member Kashana Williams and Ricardo Wynn, and director of operations over at the LGBT Center, Ricardo Galaviz, also standing in for Ricky, who's the director over there too. So big shouts out to them. They graced us with their presence as well, and they're doing amazing work in the LGBTQ community, and especially communities, people of color over there, really highlighting the plight and the experience that so many face in this community and making sure that they have everything that they need to thrive. They've been doing great advocacy work and really great partners for Wisconsin Voices. So we were very much, I'll give you an excerpt of what was said about them. One of our staffers, Zoe Roberts, was able to highlight that and encouraging young people to lead and guiding adults in assessing resources, training allies and leaders throughout Milwaukee. Their center has proven that advocacy creates lasting change. The work reminds us that true acceptance comes from action, standing with one another, leaning and learning from one another, and raising our voices together. So we were very excited to highlight all three of those amazing organizations, the people behind them, and the work that we've been able to do. I'm new at Wisconsin Voices, but the work that they have continued to do with the organization for quite some time. So thank you all for the great work that you guys are doing. And that brings me to talk about awards. We should just give her one because she is a great senator in the Milwaukee area. I'm sure she's getting used to being called senator. For the longest, for the longest, she probably has not heard that, especially in our interaction. But I have in studio State Senator Dora Drake of the 4th Senate District, the 4th, correct?
Yeah, 4th. You got it right.
All right, there we go. And you are in the 4th Senate District, where the impeccable former state senator, now judge, Lena Taylor, resided. And you were before that in the state assembly with me. And before that, you were working in justice reform efforts in the community. So thanks for coming in today.
Thank you for having me. Long time no see.
Absolutely. I've been in this role for about 100 days, and it does not feel like it's been 100 days, but at the time it's actually moving that quick.
Well, I mean, just the list of people you guys honored, it's important that we give people their flowers while they're doing the work, is because, as we all know, there is a lot of things that are making people anxious, nervous, angry, downright, I think, frustrated. And so it's good to highlight the great work that people in the community are doing, because people need to know that they are valued, that their work matters, and, that they're not taken for granted. And I think sometimes, especially given in this political climate, that's what we're seeing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you come, in the sense, bearing gifts of announcements of what you are working on right now. And you are chair of the state Black Caucus, the Legislative Black Caucus. Yep. So, Madam Chair, give us some insight of some things coming up before we go to break.
Sounds good. Well, good morning, and happy Monday. So, a huge announcement that we've announced end of August, but has been really ramping up. The Legislative Black Caucus has decided to tour the whole state of Wisconsin in efforts of having town halls to not only hear their gripes or frustrations, but also to inform us on things that we should be pushing for. And this is in response to not only how Black voters have been obviously disillusioned given what's happened with last year's election, but also, there's now midterms is right around the corner.
Mm-hmm.
And for us, it was pivotal that we had the conversation now so we can really build a policy agenda for next year that reflected not just the needs that Black Wisconsinites are dealing with, but making sure that we stay 10 toes down and that there was a collective effort in being unified in that way.
Mm. Awesome. And as we talk about what led you guys to, take the action, it's not your first rodeo. Mm-hmm. You have been elected for some time, but then also chair of the Black Caucus for a session or two before this.
I think it's been 2 years now.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
It's been
so
2
you're
years.
Like one full session. This is the
Mm-hmm.
second session. You in leadership, and talk about just rising to the moment of what people are demanding right now.
Right. I mean, you've worked in the legislature, so you know firsthand the difficulties that a lot of our Black electeds at the state level are dealing with. So, just to sort of break it down on the barriers that some of my colleagues in the caucus deal with. Two of our colleagues have introduced legislation to remove any discriminatory practices on housing, right? Mm-hmm. And people trying to find housing efforts. Did you guys know that bill never got a hearing? And part of that has to deal with the political makeup that we have at the state legislature. But on the flip side of that, people have just said that obviously they can't make ends meet. We know that the rising costs is impacting families and everyday people. You have concerns about what happened with the big ugly bill, because I'm going to call it that passed nationally.
I'm thankful that you are characterizing it the right way.
It's because it is. And
mm-hmm.
it is. No, but look, y'all, the Milwaukee, especially in the 4th Senate District, has the highest number of people that are on Medicaid. And so if you're talking about access to quality and affordable health care, now with the cuts that Medicaid will be coming down within 3 years, Wisconsin is now in a state where we can't expand Medicaid, because if we do, it would cost our state billions. And so if you're talking about families trying to make sure I just need to put food on the table, I'll make sure my kids are safe and also get quality education, to healthcare and just basic needs. That's what we're dealing with. And for the, Wisconsin, Wisconsin had the highest turnout nationwide for, VP Harris, VP Harris, because that's who she is. And even though we had the highest turnout nationwide, we saw a decline of voter engagement, Black voter engagement. And I think a lot of that has to deal with people being disillusioned because they're asking, what am I going to get for my vote? And so those are some of the things that have led to this moment. And honestly, I think it's just been a long time coming where people are ready to see us. We've already stopped by Green Bay and Racine last week, and we're in Madison today.
Okay.
And of course, we saved the best for last. Milwaukee will be here October 2nd, and we're finalizing that location. But the feedback has been amazing. We have people that have talked about AI and workforce to voting rights and so many other things. And now we have a good problem because people are saying, can you come to my city? Now I'm like, okay, we have to work out the logistics, but I think that just speaks to the need of people wanting to see their electeds actually coming to them to hear what their needs are and building a plan on how we're going to combat a lot of the issues and needs that, that we're dealing with right now.
Wow. So that's great because you're highlighting, some of my journey that has cross-sected into, it was one trying to figure out like how government worked and how to, just like our listeners know about the Schoolhouse Rock video,
nice.
How to, I'm just a bill, I'm just sitting here on Capitol Hill, right? And you understanding the legislative process and things of that nature. And now I'm tasked with figuring out how to get folks to be more engaged in the voting process. I feel like it just keeps getting harder and harder. God just keeps throwing harder and harder things for me to figure out.
I got some questions when I get up there. But,
sure.
I do think that we're meeting the moment.
Yeah, because
It's
like you said, people want to be heard,
right.
and you all are making an opportunity for them
Hmm.
to get engaged and for the voices to be heard too.
Well, right.
Hmm.
And when I had the opportunity to obviously do the kickoff at a front, which was awesome. But one of the questions that they asked me was, well, who's all invited? Now, of course, this is focused on centering Black voices because I think for the longest time we push whenever we push our issues, we do uplift everybody, but sometimes, well, actually, a lot of times that doesn't happen. Dealing with
Hmm.
the demographics that we already know. We already know the worst statistics, whether it's mass incarceration, housing, employment.
Hmm.
We can go down the gambit.
I have a
But
mentor that says if white men aren't working, Black men never will.
mhm,
And they also say when if white America gets a cold, Black America gets the flu.
exactly.
Hmm.
But I think one of the encouraging things that I've heard on the tour so far has been that even, folks that aren't Black, so Latino, Asian, white, they've said that they were so appreciative that we still came and that they're at least able just to listen. And so I think it speaks to what we need. And I think it's a complete contrast to what's happening with MAGA right now. We can do on a whole nother topic about what MAGA is. Honestly, y'all think it's a cult. But reality is, when we are then attacks on DEI, which diversity, equity, inclusion, thinking that it's woke, not really. If you're focused on doing the best for humanity and showing people giving people and acknowledging their merit just on themselves, like then these things shouldn't be an issue. And so, we're excited and we know that there's a lot of work ahead of us, but it starts now because we don't, as a state, there's a lot that we'll have to be dealing with just on the policy side. So we want to get your input now. And really, for folks that are registered or are interested in registering, we do have a Facebook website where you can go to the link tree and register for the town hall. But we're really there to listen, and it's important that us there listening, we can share with you some of the things that we are working with, but we want to hear from you on what your concerns are. What aren't we doing better? And then giving us ideas. So in that way it can be a collective effort.
Mm. That's awesome. That's awesome. I know we have to shift to a commercial soon, but I want to continue to build on just the feel of the events that
Mhm.
you guys have hosted in the
Absolutely.
other parts of the state, and then why you chose those other parts of the state
Gotcha. Yeah, we can do that.
that you guys picked. So let's go ahead and shift to a commercial break, and we will be back with State Senator Dora Drake. Back to Be a Voice Radio with Wisconsin Voices here in the WNOV studio. I am here with State Senator Dora Drake. She is chair of the Wisconsin Legislative Black Caucus. They have made an intentional effort to get around the state listening to the voices of the people and prioritizing Black voices in that. And we were just talking over the break about her getting ready for the Congressional Black Caucus that's happening in DC. So we'll have to really dive into that too. But I'm hearing these listening sessions, and it's actually teeing up your time to be in, literally, because you have to you have to pack tonight to go to DC. So it's literally teeing up your experience to be in DC for the first time during the Congressional Black Caucus. And we have to give a really big shout out to our favorite Congresswoman Gwen Moore of the 4th CD. Queen Mother herself.
Yes, absolutely.
And every CBC, she provides a great experience for those who come from Wisconsin to make it out there and to be able to lift up. We support her in lifting up her leadership, and she very much supports the whole delegation that makes it out there, and the sessions that you get to go to, the experiences and the people you come in contact with. So going back to your sessions, you literally have one tonight in Madison. So, there are a lot of listeners on this station and online. They can, if you know people in Madison, there will be a listening session with the Wisconsin Black Caucus that you can attend. Where is that?
It's at the Black Business Hub from 5 to 7 tonight.
Nice. The Black Business Hub is partnered with the Urban League out there.
Yes, shout out to Dr. Ruben Anthony out there.
Shouts out to Dr. Anthony. Yeah. So great space for it to be in, and great synergy happening in Madison. I'm seeing a lot of Dr. G and just a lot of energy that is very much being invested in Black leadership out there. And even our former colleague, Jason Fields.
Jason Fields is out there working with Pastor McGee as well. And shout out to Judge Everett Mitchell as well, because he is dynamic with what he's doing with criminal justice work in his position as judge. So a lot of great work happening in Madison right now.
Absolutely. So you got these listening sessions. You picked other parts of the state. I think you said Green Bay.
Yes.
I think you said Appleton.
Racine.
Yes. Okay. So those happened already too.
Yeah.
Give us some insight how those went.
Yeah. So, before break, we talked about like how we even decided where we would go, where we went for our listening sessions. And part of it was based on obviously where the largest demographic Black voters were. So obviously that was in Milwaukee. So you can't do anything without Milwaukee and Madison. But then there are growing areas of the state. And so Green Bay, we have a new member of the Legislative Black Caucus, Representative Ahmad Rivera Wagner. And so wanted to reach out to him. And we had the first session there. So that was located actually at a barbershop.
Okay.
So it was,
very cool.
It was, when we didn't know it, but Representative Rivera Wagner got food there for us. But it was people were so grateful that we were there. So I think some of the things that we heard at that listening session was things around education. We heard concerns about AI, issues around mass incarceration too. And then even some folks asked about the systems that we have here actually in Milwaukee. It's because some of the things that we have here, I think sometimes we take for granted because they don't have as much of the infrastructure there. And so they were curious to know in different ways that they can learn from the things that we're doing down here. And our county executive, David Cawley, was up there for that event. And he had opportunity to share some of the great work that he's doing with the criminal justice reform efforts on the county level. So those were some of the things that we heard. But one thing that stuck out to me with that meeting or that town hall, there was a Black man who shared his story on how he was formerly incarcerated, wanted to do better, and initially focused on trying to do things around mental health for Black men. But it's grown into something where it's not just Black men, but Latino men and white men. And his comment to us was just seeing how he saw that many Black leaders in the space was a prayer that was answered for him. So that was one of the takeaways from Green Bay. And Racine, it was hosted by Pastor Evans and at the church, and we had folks ask a lot of questions about voter engagement.
Okay.
So some folks were questioning if their vote would count if they still mailed in their ballot. And so we were able to talk a little bit about what's happening at the state level, what our Supreme Court does, but then also dealing with the real reality that the Voting Rights Act right now is under attack and completely undercut completely. And so that was one strong point of conversation that we heard. But we also heard about issues around workforce and diversity, equity, inclusion efforts, and what can be done, and different strategies that the caucus is either looking at or moving towards. And so I'm excited to hear more about what's going to happen in Madison. Obviously, Rep Stubbs, represents that area.
Big shouts out to Rep Stubbs.
Absolutely, and she's been a huge help in getting that location set up. But we are we're excited, and so that's part of why we want to have this. Obviously, there are things that we can go down the gambit on data, right? We know, that we still have the highest rate of Black unemployment in the state. Mass incarceration is a no-brainer. We already know what that story is, and we just want to make sure that we're capturing everything. But all in that, it's important, I think, for us, not just as members of the Legislative Black Caucus, but just in general, we have to create new systems for what is coming down the pipeline. I mentioned about Medicaid expansion, but another issue that we're dealing with is obviously the erasure of our own history. And what are we doing to put infrastructure and resources and funding towards those efforts to ensure that our history is taught properly and not erased by other forces?
I got you. A lot there. And you're having these sessions, these conversations. Let's just talk about, do you feel like because we see a lot with like misinformation and disinformation happening right now. Are you seeing that a lot also popping up in sessions where people are coming to clarify like what's happening? And
ironically, no.
Okay.
So I think the issue with the misinformation, this is how I sort of see the issue with misinformation or lack of information out there. I believe that having folks share wrong information on purpose is with the intent to cause fear and chaos, right? I think if anything, we've just had people that were genuinely just didn't know or want to know more about what's happening. And so the atmosphere has been more, we're glad that you're here. Tell us what's happening, but then what are we doing to move forward? And that was actually one of the questions that was asked in the Racine Town Hall. One person asked, well, what's, the Democrats' response for Project 2025? And the real answer is this is the response. We're figuring out what you need, what you care about, what we should be fighting for. And for me, I just want to make sure as a caucus that who else decides to get involved in the race and the governor's race or any candidate, that they have a solution to address the issues that we're hearing in these town halls and what this agenda will look like moving forward.
Yeah. One of the things I did notice, you have a number of candidates that are coming up out of the assembly, right?
Yeah. Last week was fun.
So my former colleague, your current colleague,
Absolutely.
Francesca Hong, state representative out of Madison, announced that she's running. County Executive David Crawley, former state representative David Crawley, right?
And he's former Black Caucus chair as well.
Yep, there you go. So it is interesting. I'm like, okay, I see a little state assembly connection right there. That's kind of cool. And I know what I wanted to highlight, and I think our listeners very much remember the Lloyd Barbies, the Vel Phillips. They very much remember these pillars, the Barbara Tolles,
Absolutely.
the Tamara Grigsby's,
Polly Williams.
Yep, yes. The Polly Williams, of course, have been staples of Black leadership at the state level. And for you to say, we have a member of the Black Caucus in the state of Wisconsin in Green Bay is would blow a lot of people's minds. That's where we are today. And you can see where there's a lot of attacks and things that happen, but you also see this silver lining too, that you see Black leadership is growing.
Well, and I think that's in line with sort of just what our values are,
Mm.
and it, at least at the state level, you know, Democrats do have the opportunity to get the trifecta next year. That is a real
That's
possibility.
right. Hmm.
And I will say, given if you pick, I know people may hate the two-part system right now, given what's happening, and I get that because of how frustrating all this is. But if you look at who's supporting who, you know,
Hmm.
the black leadership has grown because there are issues that Democrats just are more aligned with. And because of that, I want to make sure that we don't take that for granted anymore. It's easy for us to say, yes, under umbrella, we're Democrats. We have these things that we fall in line in, absolutely. But issues that impact our community, the Black community, are different. And
Mm.
so they're nuanced, and we need to make sure that those aren't put to the wayside in efforts to have other, what's the word I'm looking for? Other focuses.
Sure, sure. And as you talk about the importance of how people are seeing this right now, and
Hmm.
how they're making decisions, even just like, let's just look at 2024 and how the effort was there to be able to connect with folks on the ground, and to, you know, there are a couple dynamics that are happening there.
Hmm.
Democrats passed the infrastructure bill.
Right.
Democrats are at the federal level, very much getting things done. But then it also shows that there's some difficulty in being able to, like, not just keep your head down and just get stuff done, but like to also make sure that you are connecting with the people you're doing the work for.
Exactly. And I think, and when you mentioned the infrastructure bill, one bill too that I know that under President Biden, they were trying to pass the George Floyd Act,
Mhm.
right?
Sure.
Something that we know, police brutality still happens whether we like it or not. And that was a real piece of legislation that was stalled
Hmm.
because of, unfortunately, Republicans that just didn't allow it to get to the to his desk to sign into law. So those are things that would have huge impact
Hmm.
on our whole state and our country. But now that elections do matter, and I think we're seeing that in real time. And so my hope is not just with this conversation that we're having, but past this, there has to be the click, the little light bulb that goes off
Gotta go
off
off.
your head where it's like,
Uh-huh.
okay, all this stuff is connected. Because if you're saying I can't feed my kids, and I'm struggling to get jobs, what have you, we can either be looking at minimum wage or other issues. But if you have your president sign an executive order that made it where they no longer have to ensure that you are equally protected
Hmm.
and have that removed, there is no safeguard. It's harder. There's less safeguards
Hmm.
for you to ensure that you have access to opportunity based on your own merit, right? So those are just some of the things we have to realize all of this is connected. And as a state, I do believe that state governments will be the sounding board and honestly the first line of defense in a lot of these cuts that are coming down. And it's important as state lawmakers that people get to know who we actually are, because I think sometimes people still may not know what we actually do, but ensuring that we're figuring out what systems we can have in place so that way it's safeguarded regardless of what's happening on the national level.
Yeah. We're on the federal level and the national level, so we might as well go there.
Let's go there.
And things just continue. This is the month of September.
It's been
We
a crazy year,
are
y'all. It just has.
6 months in to maybe 7 months in, but it
It
feels like
feels
7 years.
longer. Yeah, look, it feels like more than 6 months.
So, as we like really understand the dynamics and the things that are happening right now, how do you, as your state leadership and trying to navigate, just being able to cut through the noise, cut through a lot of stuff that is thrown at the wall to see if it sticks, and to stay on your own long-term vision of where the caucus is supposed to go, your district, and your policy goals are supposed to go?
Man, that's a deep question.
Mhm.
But it's a good one. And I would say I think some of us are still trying to figure out what that is because there's so much that's coming down the pipeline, right? We talked about Medicaid, we talked about mass incarceration, we talked about education, and some of these things is realizing the best strategy to address it. So, for example, a lot of the things with the executive orders, those were things that honestly our attorney general took the best. It was best that they responded to because now he has filed, I think, 20 lawsuits in response
Mm.
to the federal government. And one of those lawsuits actually deals with AmeriCorps and Job Corps. If folks don't remember, at the time, there was the there's erased funding or attempts to erase funding on the national level for AmeriCorps and Job Corps. Our Attorney General, Josh Call, filed a
Mhm.
lawsuit in response. And thankfully, we were able to overturn that. But the problem is, the damage was already done, right?
Yep.
Because if you're a worker and you want to find a job that you're stable in, right? And
Mhm.
so to say, well, I don't know if it's going to be cut again, it it's the administration's active approach. Well, underhanded approach, really, it's quite evil. To say, oh well, there's no more fun. People aren't using
Mhm.
the program anymore, so let's just completely remove it, and that's just part of the Doge attacks. I think some other things where we're deciphering what we can respond to as a state is looking at how we can generate more revenue for our state.
Mhm.
For example, with Medicaid, I believe it took 40% of our well, we received 40% of the funding from the national government, and now that that's gone, we have to figure out what can we do now that Medicaid expansion's off the table. So a lot of the questions and thoughts and things we're looking into is what are we doing to provide basic needs? And I think that's really where we have to start with. It's creating systems, it's finding ways to generate revenue, and honestly, showing people that we're willing to stand up on what we believe in at the end of the day. And I think that's been just sort of a larger conversation, not just with national state governments, but just people's opinions about the Democratic Party. People saying, well, what are you guys doing? Are you fighting? And I think people have every right to be frustrated right now. Um, I think there's a two-portion piece here. Like I said, elections have consequences. That
Mhm.
is a part of it. So that's something where all of us have to take accountability for that. But on the flip
Mhm.
side, we're leaders. And
Yeah.
so that is our responsibility too to figure out how we move forward. And people need to know that these are the things that we stand on and we got to find a way to push through it and actually put those solutions forward.
I think that's well said. And I know we have a call. I want to shift to that soon.
Mhm.
I just find it interesting the conversation when you don't have the one clear person that is in lead is that it then decentralizes to everyone is the leader,
Mhm.
right? And then you have the fact that you have leaders in your midst that are already doing the work,
Right.
that are already leading, and it's time to then turn to them and
Mhm.
then actually give them the platform to get the insight on what do we do next.
Exactly.
So um, there's no need to be frustrated anymore. For I see with folks saying, "Hey, there was a loss in 2024. We didn't get what we wanted in 2024.
Mhm.
It's time to go to work now. It's time to listen
Exactly.
now. It's time to get in communities and do the work now." So I'm noticing the same thing as well,
Mhm.
even in the pro democracy space. Um, and we have folks that work tirelessly
Of
day in,
course.
day
I can
out.
imagine.
Thankfully, right now, it's an off year, right? There are no elections right now, guys, until
Next year.
February. There
Oh
will
yeah,
be
because there's
the state Supreme Court
Yep.
race, right? So you got some time. And matter of fact, that's even if there's no primary. If there's no primary, we go on to April. Now is the time for you to get your rest, drink your water,
Mhm.
and to, if you're going to CBC, get the CBC. If you're going to the listening sessions, go to the listening sessions
Mhm.
and get involved. There's a huge opportunity, and I thank President Biden for his work. I thank VP Harris for her work. Um, Now it is up to all of us to do the work that is
Absolutely.
necessary to move our communities forward and find moments of collaboration and to be able to work across the aisle. I've been able to do that. You've been able to do that.
Mhm.
And finding it even with anyone that's willing to do that work, even President Trump, if that's what it
Well,
is.
and I think we are seeing some profiles of courage.
Yeah.
And to talk on your point, I think before the ugly bill was passed, there were some Republicans in the state Senate that voted against it.
Hmm.
And so I think really it's showing the signs of, okay, who is really for the people, and
There
that's
you
what we
go.
need to be focused on. One thing I want to make sure I put in, because we heard this a lot during our town halls, on how you can plug into not just the work that the Legislative Black Caucus is doing, but how to get updates. The best way to plug in is to go to our website. So if you Google search Wisconsin Legislative Black Caucus, you'll be able to not just sign up for updates, but also register for the event and get to see all the amazing work that members of our caucus are doing. But also follow us on social media. So we have Facebook, we have Instagram, and that's a good point of contact for us as well.
Absolutely. And you could always Facebook search Dora Drake.
Of course.
It will pop right up, state senator, right here in the flesh doing the work. And we are thankful for everything that you're doing. There's so much to cover. And I want to encourage you guys, the more that you can take advantage of the platforms that are out there, feel free to remind caucus members they can join us here on Be a Voice Radio, and get in the mix of just making sure you're continuing to push out content. I believe some of the best. Oh yeah, we got a caller.
Yeah, let
me not forget that. But some of the best electeds, they do the work. They just forget to talk about it.
That is true. That is true.
Because they go on to fix the next thing. So, caller, welcome to A60W on a VP of Voice Radio with Wisconsin Voices. I got State Senator Dora Drake here. How are you?
Hey, I'm blessed. Good afternoon to you and to Ms. Drake. I have a question on the Black Caucus deal.
Okay.
Now, is that Black Caucus that you guys have there in Madison, is that a pure partisan deal, or is that a nonpartisan?
That's a good question.
Where everybody's welcome, or is it a partisan deal?
Yeah. So
thank you so much for making that question, because
well,
some people don't even understand.
You as well.
Oh, it's a two-parter.
Yeah,
okay, I'll let her finish
her
first
as well.
Well, okay. No, it's a good question. So the Legislative Black Caucus is nonpartisan. Our bylaws do say that any Black elected is open essentially to join the Black Caucus, but that is on the member. Because I do want to, and thank you for highlighting it, we do have a Black Republican, a state senator, Julian Bradley, who gets to serve in the Senate with us as well. And I will say that he and I have some things that we agree on, but there's some differences on how, the caucus and differences of opinion might happen. But in terms of issues that we might work on together, that's always been on the table.
So Julian is a part of it.
He is eligible to be a member, but that's been a personal conversation.
I believe he's been invited
that's
to that
a great
table.
Thing to know that we got some diversity and other views coming from the other side. Now, to you, Brother Dave, my question is, are you a socialist? Because I remember meeting you years ago out in New York. We bumped into each other out there, and you was kind of hanging out with the Socialist Party. I just want to know what's your stance. Are you a socialist, so we can understand where you actually at with that?
Is this Winky?
No,
I think that's Brother Meach, right?
Oh, Meach. Oh,
yeah.
Brother Meach.
How are you doing?
I saw you out in New York, though. You've been out in New York?
Did not bump into you out in New York?
I don't think so.
Yeah, you was with the Charlie. I mean, with the remember, what was the dude's name? The old man that was running. I'm thinking, what's his name? The white guy that was trying to be president at that time. Hello?
Meach? But anyway,
brother,
appreciate your call. Your question was, do I consider myself a socialist? I don't. But I supported all types of policies that lean on very progressive, usually very progressive side of the Democratic side. But I've served as a Democrat in the legislature, and I know some amazing socialists. They do good work. But I've been a Democrat. That was how it went for me when I was in the legislature. So appreciate your call.
Well, and I would say one other thing, and
I'll say something about Senator Bradley too, though.
I've
been able to work with him as well.
Absolutely. It's good to hear from you, Meach. I will say, and that's why, again, part of the obviously there's a larger conversation. I talked about what's happening nationally, what Democrats are doing, Republicans aren't. But, part of the conversations, like I mentioned earlier on the call, was that some of our issues are nuanced. And so that's why, again, we want to make sure that it is a agenda that's truly reflective of what those issues are. So if you have things to share, please come out to the town hall and you can register at our link tree and either show up for Madison tonight, or you can look for the details for Milwaukee coming soon.
That's awesome. And then we're trying to help make sure that the location for Milwaukee, see if we can use our Wisconsin Voices platform and make sure we lock in a location for Milwaukee. So, we got a break that we got to take, and we'll be back on the flip side with State Senator Dora Drake. She's a millennial, and she's a millennial, and she in the studio bouncing. Like, it's a party up in here with her.
A good beat, that's all I need.
That's all you need.
That's all I need.
And you a stepper too, aren't you?
No. A what?
Like a stepper. You like out of Chicago,
Midwest I want to. So I would love to do Stepping with the Stars. Maybe. We'll see next year.
But no, I do love dancing. Senator Drake with the Steppers of the Stars at some point.
We'll see. I don't know. In the future, we'll see. But no, dancing is I do love dancing, but I just don't do it as often given, the work that I do.
That's right. That's right. Well, that's cool. I was at the shouts out to Safe and Sound. They had their event last week, and they awarded my amazing sister, Alderwoman Charlene Moore, highlighting her leadership. And what's the first thing Charlene does once the music come on? Dance to go up to the stage. And she started dancing so hard. I was like, oh God.
Look, we need joy.
Don't go that hard, but yes, you should. Yes, you should.
We need joy in this time. So any moments that we can find, we better hold on
Absolutely.
to it.
Absolutely. So big shout out to Charlotte Moore. Love you.
Mm-hmm.
She's continuing to do amazing work over there. And shout out to Bridget and her team at Safe and Sound. I I even saw the mayor. The mayor was doing the dance to the Big Frank song.
I was gonna say he's been live with that.
I mean, that wasn't a dance, but he was dancing.
It was, got the little shoulder shift.
He just got to loosen up a little bit. Shouts out to you, Chevy. We love you too. So let's talk about just we got a few minutes left. Highlight the stuff that you are working on. I always think back to my tenure and like how I made decisions and what I focused on at what time. Maybe I switched up the plan for what I thought I would do from the beginning of the session. So right now it is September. You guys were sworn in January, and you're halfway through the session in a sense before the session comes to a close next year. And how are you assessing like what's going on for you to champion right now?
Well, so the biggest thing that I've been championing right now has been cryptocurrency legislation.
Interesting.
So, and it's a new space for me, y'all, because, former representative and CEO shared, my background was in criminal justice work. So I know a lot of things about pretrial, reentry services, and things that our court systems need a huge reform on. But given the, I think, new space that we're dealing with, one of the things that have been pushed nationally has been encouraging crypto legislation. And I was looking at this issue for about 3 years, actually. And one thing that I knew was pivotal was ensuring that people had access to not just financial freedom, but financial opportunity as well. And so one of the things that I introduced early this year was the WIN bill, which stands for Wisconsin Innovative Network Bill, where essentially it would be a bill that's focused on education. Because in Wisconsin, we have the highest number of scams that are happening right now are due to cryptocurrency ATMs that are popping out everywhere and anywhere. And part of that is one, there's a lack of education. We have nothing in our state statutes identifying what it even is. And so what my bill aims to do is, one, create an office within the Department of Financial Institutions to teach the general public and business owners how you can use cryptocurrency for your own personal use, for selling goods and services if you're a business owner, and just what support systems might look like. And then there's a pilot program attached to that where if you go through, obviously there are things that you have to qualify in order to go through the program. But when you do, some of those things that you would invest in would actually go towards paying off some of the fees and licenses that you'd have to get setting that up. Now, the thing is with cryptocurrency, I truly want this to be bipartisan. So there's been a lot of conversations over throughout the whole year on how we can move it forward. And it's still, I think, to be determined, because I will say that we don't have anything that defines definitions and of what even cryptocurrency, digital assets are. And so there's still a lot of conversations with a lot of stakeholders on how we can get there and get to the finish line. So that's one thing that I'm personally working on. But some of the other things that I introduced, one of the things was reckless driving. I think I've heard that loud and clear, and everybody has. And so we introduced the red light camera bill, but it's different because it's a speed enforcement bill, similar to some work that's been done in years past, where you would only be cited if you're speeding over 15 miles per hour. And so one, I think it's a speed enforcement camera. We worked really closely with the city on this, and we know that there was concerns about privacy as well as who would be tagged and, how long the information would be shared. So we made sure that there were safeguards to ensure, one, that the public was informed. So there would be signage, there would be a campaign for, I think, at least 1 to 3 months, so people knew what was happening, wouldn't be cited right away, and that the funds that would be required from those systems could only be used for traffic enforcement, infrastructure, or innovative ideas, essentially. And so that was something that was introduced earlier this year as well. And knock on wood, hopefully it gets a public hearing because we were able to make it bipartisan this year as well.
Okay.
But I do want to highlight some of the great work that our caucus members are doing, because I want to let folks know that members of the Legislative Black Caucus are doing great work. I know that Rep. Madison just put out a package of bills dealing more with some of the police accountability measures here in our city. I know that AF facial recognition is a big one. And so I know that he's been trying to do work on that. Senator Johnson has been leading on issues around human trafficking. Those are things that she's working on. Representative Haywood, he is your housing guy. So he is currently working on some stuff in that matter as well. Rep. Stubbs, she is working, well, she introduced legislation where you would creating a task force for murdered African American women and girls, because we don't even have a system to track the data. I'm trying to make sure I catch everybody, but there's so much great work that our Legislative Black Caucus members are doing. And so I encourage everyone to please go to the website, because you can not only just see what the caucus is doing, but then go to each of the members' own personal websites to learn more about them, and for you guys to know who your representatives are as well.
There you go. And, this is proof that folks are actually doing the work. Folks are actually, they're not just sitting on their hands. They're not just waiting on someone to tell them what to do. These are accountable, mostly seasoned elected officials that are stepping up in this moment to try to deliver on the issues that are affecting every single one of us in our community, and some of the most pressing things that we just haven't been able to turn a corner on for the most part. So I'm excited to see your leadership and the leadership of the whole caucus continue to grow, continue to impact. And as we go into the end of this session, I'm sure that there will be proof. The proof will be in the pudding of all the things that you guys have accomplished and worked on. So I couldn't be more excited, and I'm so thankful that we have State Senator Dora Drake to join us in person, and we hope to get more members of the caucus in.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, guys, and have a great rest of your Monday.
Enjoy your week, y'all. Well, it's actually, we'll see you tomorrow. And thank you so much. Via Voice Radio, we out.